Hi, I'm Chance. I'm a long-distance backpacker with over 5,000 miles hiked. I also co-host the Backpacker Radio podcast for the Trek. And finally, I've authored Hiking from Home, a long-distance hiking guide for family and friends, which teaches our loved ones the ins and outs of what through hiking entails so that they can feel more comfortable with you hiking anything from hundreds to thousands of miles in the backcountry. REI is currently having their biggest sale of the year with over 10,000 items on sale, some as much as 60% off. So to help you narrow down the good stuff, I wanted to share some of my top picks for items I've taken backpacking. I put a huge emphasis on keeping a low pack weight since I'm only 5'1" and I don't want to risk injury from having too heavy of a pack. But many of the items I do carry are sold at REI and are currently on sale, so those are the ones that I'm going to run through. Lastly, keep in mind gear preferences are different person to person, so my preferences may not be your preferences, and that's okay. This is just what I personally like from this sale. This is something that we usually see when we go car camping. Someone will always bring the table, and this is one that we have had at pretty much every car camping trip we've taken. It's 10 pounds, 3.2 ounces. It does collapse, so it folds up nice and small. And then the other one that our friends always bring is this Mountain Summit Gear Deluxe Roll Top. And this is the one that I prefer out of the two. If you are looking to have something to set your stove up on or to be able to keep food on while you're cooking during the day, it's really nice to have a table just to keep things organized. But the reason I prefer this one is because it has this roll top that you can put things in that has the side walls. It does help if it's windy, because if you're bringing plates or, anything really, and the wind hits and things start flying off the table, that kind of stinks. So out of the two, I would prefer this one, and it is 40% off, which rocks. Next up is hammocking. So I really like bringing an hammock when I car camp. Again, I don't pay attention to weight when I'm car camping because the car is usually pretty close to where I'm camping. But was kind of the big name that I knew when I got into car camping in the first place. And so I did get an hammock. This one's a single nest, which means it's for one person. And while you do see that they've got dogs in those photos, I would highly recommend not putting your dog in the hammock. RIP to my hammock, because the reason I do not use it currently is that I brought Harper into it and her little claws punctured it while she was excited, and we both ended up on the ground, and now I don't have that hammock anymore because it is ripped through. So if you have a dog, ignore those cute photos. Don't put it in it. It weighs 1 pound. It's great for one person. I also have the double nest hammock, which I'll show you in a second, but if it is just you using the hammock and you don't plan on having two people in it, I would highly recommend getting the single, because all the extra material when you're laying in it on the double kind of folds over your head and you're in this little hammock cocoon and you can't see anything out of it. So it does get a bit overwhelming. So if it's just you, single nest. Okay, this is one that I am considering getting just to kind of get myself hammock camping a little bit more this summer, because I kind of stopped a little bit once I did rip that hammock. But the ProFly Hammock Rain Tarp is something that I would like to get, because I've been in my hammock on nights that it's rained, and then what I usually end up doing is packing up quick and going and sleeping in my car, and that's mainly because I don't have a rain fly for it. It's just something I've put off getting. So wanting to get back into hammock camping a little bit more, I think the rain tarp is pretty much next on the list for things that I need that I don't have that would just make it more enjoyable for me. Realistically, with there are a lot of accessories you can get, so rather than clicking through them one by one, I'm just going to go through their kind of page at REI, and that's what I'll link at the bottom. That way you can see it all in one place. But the other thing I would consider getting that I don't already have is the bug net. They have a lot of options for bug nets, but it's nice to not get bitten. Sometimes when I want to camp and go in my hammock, I don't, because of the bugs, and having a bug net really will make it more enjoyable for you if you're going to be spending night after night in a hammock. Okay, as mentioned, this is the double nest hammock. It is essentially the same exact thing as the single nest, except instead of being for one person, it's for two. Weight capacity is up to 400 pounds. It weighs 1 pound, 3 ounces. And like I said, if it's just you camping, don't get this one, get the single nest, because otherwise you're just going to be swimming in a sea of fabric. Okay, this is what I'm excited about. This was my best purchase for my hammock in terms of things that make sleeping in it overnight more enjoyable. If you don't have an underquilt for your hammock, what's going to happen is you're going to get a breeze coming through the bottom, and it's going to make you really cold. So at first what I did to combat this was I put my Z-Lite Thermarest sleeping pad, that foldable accordion thing that we just looked at, into the hammock with me to try to block out some of the breeze. that works fine. But if I want to stay really warm, and I do because I'm a cold sleeper, the Ember Hammock underquilt is really what did it for me. I would never sleep in my hammock outside without this. Again, this is for car camping, not long distance hiking, so I don't really care about weight when it comes to this stuff, and so keep that in mind when I am recommending these things. But the Ember Hammock underquilt rocks. They do have it in another model, and it's either warmer or lighter. This one is a 40 to 60 degrees temperature recommendation. I'm not really camping outside in a hammock lower than 40 degrees, so that's perfect for me. It weighs 1 pound and 11 ounces. I love it. This is one you can get away with not getting if you wanted to cut costs somewhere and you just didn't feel like buying something extra. You can hang up your hammock with just paracord and it'll be fine. But the reason why I like the hammock straps is they have different places that you can hook the hammock into. And what I've found is after you've been in the hammock for a while, if you're getting out and in over a camping weekend, it starts to droop a little bit as the paracord or whatever cord you're using tugs when you're sitting in it. So to be able to take the hook off of one section and then hook it higher up without having to reset the whole thing just makes life a little bit easier. These I would say are a luxury, but it's nice to have and I enjoy having mine. Okay, stoves. So when I'm long distance backpacking, the stove I use is a BRS stove from Amazon. It's just a cheap stove. It's like $10. It is less than an ounce. And so for me, being conscious of weight, I really enjoy it. The BRS stove does get a lot of flack from people because they say that because the cost is cheap and the weight is so low, it doesn't work, it breaks, whatever you might call it. I haven't found that. So when I use my BRS stove, because I take good care of it, it's given me over 3 years of use and I haven't had a single issue with it. The things I do notice with it though is that if I'm cooking something that uses a lot of water and my pot is pretty heavy, I do want to be careful to not bend the little arms on it because it is so tiny. So if I know I'm going to be cooking for more than just me, which long distance hiking, I'm cooking for just me. Car camping, I'm usually cooking for me and at least one other person. So if that's the case and I'm cooking for at least me and another person, I use the MSR Pocket Rocket 2. And that is a great stove. It can hold a lot more weight, but it's still pretty light. So if I'm hiking out and back or if I'm doing an overnight or anything where I want to cook for more than one person, this is what I go to. Average boil time with this is 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and it only weighs 2.6 ounces. Okay, so this is one of the Jetboil stoves, and as I just mentioned, I either use the BRS stove or the MSR Pocket Rocket 2, but I have taken this, I do own this, and it is a great stove. Average boil time is a little slower, it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds, but this is a great option for someone who doesn't want to have to buy a separate pot. If you just want your pot connected to the stove itself, that is essentially what this does. It is 14 ounces, and again, it's another great option. I just don't use it because I use a Tokes pot. If you get the size Jetboil that matches kind of the size water you typically use when you're cooking, it's a great stove.